Hello, everyone. This is Denise Wilbanks, and with me today is a very exciting person. Her name is Marina Jacobi. Marina and I have gotten in touch through internet, and we follow some of the same interests, so I'd like you to meet her. Hi, Marina.
Hi everyone.
Hi. Marina, tell us a little bit about your background, how you started in this world of metaphysics and spirituality and channeling and all the wonderful things that you do.
Well, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. From a little kid, I started having a vivid dreams, and all the vivid dreams were coming true. And I'm originally from Bulgaria. And they were progressing with family members, or I started noticing how frequent they were becoming. And when I got a little bit older, around maybe 11 or 12, my mother went into a seminar for people that had this type of abilities, psychics and channelers. And when she came back with a group of people that were very intuitive. And they started talking about all the channeling and automatic writing. So my mother told me, why don't I just try if I wish to? And I basically end up taking it from there and started to practice little by little on a piece of paper with a pencil. And it was interesting that it was in the beginning like a little circle I would write, and the whole thing was to let go and not to think of anything, just to see what the pencil is going to do without me controlling exactly what is going to come up out of it. And little by little, more and more practice, I never gave up. I started to make like a word or sentence that after a while, these sentences became like a messages for me. And I've noticed that something else is out there. And from a little kid, I always talk about the stars, and I always talk about the extraterrestrials. And I didn't know why. But was very interested. I wanted to be a writer, to do extraterrestrial movies and stories. And I had a very interesting experience when I was maybe 8 years old. I was with my grandparents at the vacation, and reportedly I was missing for 6 hours, and nobody knew where I was.
What do you think happened?
Well, what happened was the only memory I've got was that I saw myself. I had no memory where I was, but all of a sudden I saw myself, like I popped into area that was the edge of the peninsula of the ocean, and in front of me was this tent, and I had no recollection where I was for the entire time. That apparently I was missing. Yeah. No memory. And that was profound. After years later, a very intuitive psychic told me that I was taken. Mm-hmm. And I was never allowed to know exactly what, how, or even to this day what happened with this particular situation. But what I've known, that I was prepped. I was prepared for what to come. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And so this was the most profound experience I had at that time. And years later, I had an opportunity to come to America, one of the happiest days in my life, I remember. And during that time, I still have my automatic writing. I never made a business out of it. I was just there helping me through everyday life. I wasn't really taking that seriously at that point. But when I came here, I started doing it for friends and family. It was never lucrative business or something. It was just a joy when I help people. And just before 2012, all of a sudden, I usually connected with different with, for example, loved ones. Somebody that passed away, or my great-grandmother that passed away. That was the people that I was connecting with. But before 2012, all of a sudden I got a message, and I had a picture, and I draw a picture of look like a hybrid, like the grays. And I said, what is this? I was very surprised. And at that time, I only had the automatic writing. And they told me that they were hybrids and they were extraterrestrials. And of course, I was excited. I must point out here that I was never with fear when I was approaching this stuff, because through my life, no matter what I was doing through automatic writing and whoever I was connecting, was all about goodness. Whoever I was talking to, they were telling me to forgive, to give, to always to be nice to people. So it was nothing like a fear. Actually, it was more like an excitement that I had a connection with them. And they started to implement different metaphysical teachings, like there's no time, that whatever, for example, I think of becomes a reality. And because I wasn't sure, I never knew all about this stuff. Every single time I questioned something, for example, when they were teaching me there's no time, and I keep repeating, well, what do you mean is no time? This concept I couldn't understand. And I repeated, and all of a sudden I went into, if I was questioning, I would go and do research just to prove to myself that I really wasn't losing my mind, for example, because it was very strange teachings, And I would find, for example, I found Bashar, Daryl Anka. And right there was talking about, how is no time. And then I found another scientist, and it was explaining exactly what they were telling me. And I was asking, why sometimes don't you just download exactly the information? And they said, because you have to go through the experience. Whatever needs to be given to you, download it to you, will be given to you, whatever your task is, whatever your agreement is to do here. So still at that time, didn't know too much. And I dove into complete teachings of metaphysics, quantum physics, different books. I will get information from them, and then I'm going to read a book that was about something similar. And after them, all of a sudden, I had another entity came in, and he said, hello, Marina, I'm Ra. And I go, oh my God, what is this now? So Ra, I must say, was very powerful personality, because I can feel it, by the writing. And there was more metaphysical teachings. And right before 2012, Ra made me perform literally like a ritual, and it was connected with, I had to put a water, and he told me, leave the water in the center of your house and make sure that the whole family sit the 4 southeast, west, and so we were sitting, and I was told to leave the water so the water could be energized, and the whole family had to drink only from that water for 2 days. And I didn't know what was that at the same time, but I've realized that later on with the teachings, I realized that the water was absolutely energized with a frequency to be able to withhold the leap into the new dimension of the leap of 2012, because new separation was happening at that time. And in order to withhold this type of frequencies, the whole family needed to hold proper frequency for that leap. And I understand why this was done, but at that time I wasn't taught a lot, because I didn't know too much of the metaphysical teachings. So Ra introduced me to all that, and this was very interesting with him. And after him, I'm still talking to him, I'm still connecting. Sometimes the hybrids are coming too. After him, I connected with the Pleiadians. But before I connected with the Pleiadians, I was taught from Ra, was teaching me and the hybrids to leave the pencil, because I hear. And eventually I start hearing telepathically when a friend of mine, which is a psychic, put me on a spot on Skype and told me to just whatever I hear, just tell people. And I let go, and I said, you know what, I will hide behind the camera if I say something silly, but I'm just gonna say whatever they ask me. And for my amazement, everything I heard telepathically was true. Yeah. So I started to learn that and trust my feelings, not to put my thoughts into it, but the whole information was coming very fluently right before you start thinking. And more I developed this trust, and I realized that everything that they were telling me was always telepathically, but I never knew that I had disability. And now I hear completely telepathically, and I can do the writing, because what happened after I connected with the Pleiadians, more teachings were given, and I have now like 3-4 years of quantum physics and metaphysics of teachings. And what happened was they gave me a material that was for future technologies that are created for 5-dimensional structure.
When you say they, who is which entity is the they? Was it Ra? Was it the Pleiadians?
Yeah. The Pleiadians gave me the Harmonic Reactor material, which was basically, at that time, I must mention that I was totally taught how to detox my body. I end up going only on green juicing and raw food. Right now I'm only in green juicing, because I needed to match a certain frequency, the mind and the body to lift up in a frequency to connect easily with them. Mm-hmm. So they taught me how to detox, and at that time I was only juicing and eating raw food in order to be able to get all this frequency easily, the information. And these technologies were for a teleportation machine. The Harmonic Reactor is all about metaphysics and how you can build a teleportation machine, and how you can take your body and what do you do with the structure and mathematical equations. But all the stuff is put in coding. It's just the tip of the iceberg, because I had already some scientists looking into it, and they understand it, but it has to be decoded, and more information will come in when you really starting to work on a project. So you have, for medical, you have, they gave me in that material the frequency and the sound. What is number 1 frequency for, up to frequency 9. And they were saying that when you do the combination in between is very important. The numbers are also positive or negative charge, and how you can combine. Then they were talking about the chromosomes, the DNA structure. Also, what was given in the end was the quantum crystallized algorithm, which was basically the new conscious quantum computer that is a live consciousness that is will help for 5th-dimensional structure for humanity. And I know it's a lot of buzz there that how can we build artificial intelligence, could be against the humanity. The whole thing that they were telling me was not to have any fear, because if it's built from a scientific team that is for the benefit of humanity, for self-preservation, and everything for the new dimension of 5th-dimensional structure, is going to implement into that material, into that technology, because is life structure. That technology will basically recognize your molecular structure that you're vibrating on, and will implement into the structure. In turn, basically, the quantum computer, the intelligence will connect, for example, with the teleportation machine, do the calculations, and will calculate your molecular structure of your frequency of your consciousness. And this way, you are going to be teleported onto parallel reality that is basically accordingly to a vibrational structure of your consciousness. So each person that goes in there, the reality that you're going to see, for example, so-called in the future, which is no future, I can explain that at language, but you're going to see that accordingly to your own structure. So if you are, for example, a person that it's a self-centered or have an ego structure, and it's all about the money, the reality that you're going to see, it will be reflecting on what you think of. But if you're a person that is all for humanity, completely given no ego structure, you're going to see a 5th-dimensional structure when everything is beautiful, that everything is by interacting with each other, unity consciousness, by giving to each other. There's probably no money structure, because once you build this type of technologies, the frequency and the sound can basically put everything into one structure and become a solid matter. Because in reality, there's no time, and the way is not, we are made from one particle, and this particle is vibrating in such a high speed that it's appearing next to itself and next to itself and next to itself to infinity. That's why you and I have no difference, but we are made from this one particle that is basically next to itself. Yes, in a different time space. That's the reason why we are one consciousness, because we're coming from this one particle. But because in the structure of the quantum field, everything is made from light and sound. And when you have, for example, 3 different lights that they have similar frequency, they are combining with each other and becomes like a plasma structure. And this plasma structure splits off itself, like dividing itself off, and they're starting to interact with each other. It becomes like a pulsation and starting to build this type of structure. And the reason why this is happening in the quantum field, because they're different type of structure all over. And this is how, for example, the universe is breathing, for example. And each structure, it's a torus. Each torus, it's its own universe, and each torus is a pixel, and also now particle, which I can get in, because right now I'm getting nano material that is coming in. And basically that's how we are connected, because when that structure, that plasmatic structure that is made from magnetic and gravitational field, interact with certain type of vibrations into this matrix of reality, this quantum field, more and more depend how you put different type of frequency becomes a matter. And this is how consciousness and matter is connected. This is how the God particle is connected with the matter. That's why God, you are the creation, because whatever you made from this particle, that is basically went down in a certain vibration to become a matter.
Exactly. That a lot of people don't understand that in order to have had a physical body, is just your spirit have the photon just slow down to a certain extent that here you are in an expression, in a physical expression.
That's right. And the reason why we're separated, the way this particle, this structure is dividing, is this is exactly how we are, because that one particle basically by interacting of all the structure is dividing to itself. So for example, if this is me in the beginning and divide, this is you. That's why we made from is like a building, process of the structure.
Yeah.
The reason why we exist at the same time is because if I give you a mathematical equation from point A to point B, you know the result, the speed of the light, for example, or how fast you're going to go from point A to point B. But what about the result of this mathematical equation? I put also mathematical equation from the spinning of the Earth, then of the planets. Then I put the spinning of the entire cluster. And what you're going to discover mathematically, that we're basically not moving, we're simply flickering through time, space, through different realities. And this is the reason everything is coexisting at the same time, and nothing is, linear. The linear is illusion from the vibratory rate of our consciousness in order for us to experience step by step the creation of the structure, of the entire structure. Otherwise, I literally can jump from here and go to a completely different location by simply recalling the structure and of the frequency of that location, and go back, give the difference, and I can literally teleport from here, from point A to completely different location, just from this reality to this reality, and you creating a wormhole. So that is how you travel through time space.
So why do you think that we have come to exist if we are all still one and the same?
You mean in the planet itself?
Yeah.
Consciousness has to learn, has to experience. If you're just a consciousness, you're just a consciousness and you know everything. But in order for you to know yourself more, to expand your consciousness more, you have to have a different type of, and the only way to do it is through experience.
Yeah.
This is the reason why we're here, because this way we experience linearly the ascension of planet Earth.
Right. So doesn't it tickle your fanny when people get hung up on some of the dramas and things about life? What do you tell them?
what people need to understand is what I am told constantly from the guidance. Right now, I'm connected also with the Council of Nine, which I work very closely, and that is when I work with metaphysicists, or because they are giving me directly information to the scientists if they want to work on something. What I tell them is that you have to learn the quantum structure of the manifestation. You have to learn the physics of how we are made. If you learn the structure, you are going to be able to manipulate the structure for manifestation. Whatever you want can come a reality, because since we made from this one particle, and from that quantum field, we're made from that. Anything you put off, like a thought and a feeling together, the feeling is very important because it's the frequency. Feelings are frequencies. And when you put the image in your thought with the feeling together, it becomes this plasma. And that feeling, because you made from the same structure of the quantum field, it's giving back into the quantum field and it's coming back to you. And this is the reason why whatever you put out is what you get back. They call it like a karma, or whatever that is, because you are made from the same structure. And that is the reason it's so important. Whatever you think of becomes your reality, but you have to know how to control it. And you control it by your thoughts. That's why your story and your feelings, when you combine both of them, becomes magnetic and gravitational field. So that's why it's so important what you're reading, what are you watching, because you not only co-creating this reality for yourself, because whatever you put out, this feeling is coming back to you, and it becomes like a holographic expression in front of you. You are basically living in a hologram, which is projected from your own consciousness and your feeling. And that is for every single individual person. Whatever your experience for ascension process of planet Earth could be completely different than mine, because it will reflect your consciousness at that particular moment. So that's why it's so important from moment to moment to moment to be able to control your thoughts and your feelings in order to create planet Earth, of your own holographic expression, the way you want it. And the reason for that is because you create since you're flickering through time space, you basically exist in a different parallel realities at the same time. So if I move from here to here, or already move billions of times per second in different parallel reality, because time is fractal, is like a picture. I'm here and this is one parallel reality. If I move here, is another parallel reality. It's like a picture frames. And when you know that, you need to understand that if I'm here, has nothing to do if I move here. Basically in a totally different parallel reality. That's why if you know the structure, you need to understand you have to let go of your fears. You have to let go of your past, because your past has nothing to do with who you are at this moment, because you already shifted into another parallel reality of Earth, of your own creation, that is existing to infinity. There's no limits to how many parallel realities, because consciousness is splitting off. If I right now think of going to the store, and I want to go to the store at this particular moment, but then I decide, I don't want to go to the store, maybe I should stay at home. What is happening to the fact that you stay home, you took action, and you end up staying at home? But what's happening with the reality that you end up thinking of not staying at home? What happened is it's already exists in another parallel reality of your consciousness. And in order to see it, you have to take an action for it. But you took an action of staying at home. So that's how the realities are splitting off. And this is the reason why some channeler or psychic can literally say to you, listen, do not go to the store because you're going to see somebody that you're not particularly fond of. But the reason why the psychic is going to see, because that reality, since everything exists at the same time, when you flicker into time space and you exist at the same time to infinity, can see immediately that what can tap into this reality that is there. But you're experiencing the fact that you're staying at home because you took the action consciously to stay home, and that's what you see by choosing it. That's why we have choices. Nevertheless, you can choose how your reality will go. And the way you do that is, for example, somebody is very upset at you. and the person is obviously disturbed and wants to scream at you or say negative words towards you, if you engage and if you say something back to this person in a negative way, what you're doing is engaging into the frequency of that reality. And the outcome of your reality in this holographic expression is going to be negative because you tuning in and gave back the same frequency that he was giving off to you. So in order to change that, you have to stay and calm yourself down and pull yourself out, almost like an observer, like you're watching a movie. Because remember, it's a reflection image. Mm-hmm. It's a reflection image of yourself. So when you pull yourself back, you calm yourself out, say, okay, what can I do to make the situation positive? And in this particular moment, which is a 0 point, you decide to act with your thoughts and with your feelings, which is, again, magnetic, gravitational field, and is a frequency. And you tune in and you pick in a reality that already exists, that is a positive outcome. Even if the person continue yelling, you act this way. Keep acting, because eventually you're going to have a positive outcome. Why? Because you gave off positive frequency to the situation that you saw in the holographic expression.
Right.
Because the only thing the reality of the quantum field can do for you is to match that frequency that you end up giving from your thoughts and from your heart.
Right. So essentially what you're doing is you're wanting to mirror that which you want to create.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to understand that you made from this one particle, and the particle is basically a gravitation magnetic field created from your thoughts and your feelings on a certain frequency. And once you match that, you basically pick in the different parallel realities depending on the frequency. You picking up yourself. Nevertheless, what they were telling me, it's they call it bylaw. And the bylaw is sometimes you want to have particular outcome and you choose to do something, but you know nothing is happening no matter what you're doing. The whole thing is that if you have to meet particular person, for example, if it's in a structure and if you did that by agreement before you were born, because we're choosing our lives, how we're going to go, and
by contract.
Exactly, that's right. You will meet that person no matter what, because it's in a bylaw, they said. But the outcome of this meeting is going to be by you choosing. Are you going to continue working with that person, or you decide not to? And again, this splits up. And again, it's going to be a reality that you're working with this person, but you are going to see a reality that you're not working with this person because you chose to. So you're going to perceive, and with everything that you see is what you actually end up tuning into, like a choice. If you by law have to meet or something to happen for a lesson, it will happen no matter what.
So back to the entities that you're channeling, which one is more prevalent at this point? Are they all still engaging, or is there one stronger than another?
Right now, I was told that with the hybrids, they came one day, they told me that I finished my work with them.
Your contract?
But nevertheless, there were a couple of times that came in and told me something that was needed to be told. But for example, I'm still connected with Ra, but what happened is I found out that Ra was my higher consciousness. And it was literally like a ritual, how the consciousness was merging, and he told me, you and I are the same. So act as if you are me, you know how I am, you know how I feel. And I was kind of shy because I'm thinking I'm Ra, I mean, who I am to be Ra, the stuff, but it was not about the ego, it was about the consciousness, because Ra has a different expression of itself. And at this particular moment, I was able to achieve that type of a frequency in order to have that connection, to realize that I was part of this consciousness.
Yeah. Before we go any further, Marina, just for clarification for the public, particularly those who are who follow the work of the Law of One by that was channeled by Carla Ruckert. Have you read the books, The Law of One, the 5 books, The Law of One?
No, I've never read it. I was never, not that I was not allowed, but basically they wanted me to have an absolutely clean state of knowledge.
Right.
So it's not with comparison. If I needed to know something about the quantum, something that Bashar was saying, that was particular, so I can understand how to manipulate a frequency. But I never went ahead and read somebody else's work because they wanted me to stay very clear of the path of channeling the future technologies for 5-dimensional structure.
Yes.
That was very fundamental. What they put me more into is learning quantum, be familiar with what is quantum physics, what is metaphysics. You know, they wanted me to know that more than you know, reading somebody else's material.
Right, I understand.
Sometimes I'm guided not to. I was listening a channeler that I really admire, is doing a lot for people, but I was told, okay, that's enough. Now you need to pull back, because what happened, I immediately had a connection with that group, and they wanted me to stay Pleiadian with a Ra, and I have a Council of Nine that I'm working now with, you know, a scientist to help through the process.
Right.
My abilities, what we discover, I didn't know that I had a scientist online, and there were 2 of them, and they were asking me questions that I had no idea about. Because what I was told, that my information would come 5th dimensional, is going to come exactly when it's needed. Sometimes it comes when I have to tell somebody, but for something like this, I had no idea. So they were asking me questions for certain materials, for something to use that I never heard of. But the answer was exactly what they need to do, that they can use it, and what was happening molecularly to the entire atomic structure, and why they can do that, and what type of frequency they can put into that structure. So it was like specific instructions, what they can do in order to proceed in their findings. But nevertheless, not every time the information was given, because they told me information is blocked, or I don't see anything or hear anything. I basically see like a wall, like I don't get anything. It's like a blank, like a zero state. I don't know what's happening. If I don't have to gain the information, or I don't have to say anything to somebody, because maybe the person is not ready, or maybe the frequency is not, could be varieties of reasons that they know that the information is not given. Because somebody was asking me one time something for the government, and it was absolutely blank in front of me, because it was not necessary for me to tune in this type of structures in order to do this stuff.
Right.
You know, they strictly keep me with metaphysics, with I can channel for people, and I always help. And I was absolutely told to do everything for free, absolutely not to charge anything. My book is for free. I get donations sometimes, but it's always through Synchronicity, but everything is given. Because what they told me, I was forbidden to literally charge people. Everything was like, if somebody wants to give, they would give. But I was like, had to say that it's for free. And it was kind of challenging, because they wanted me to stay home. They wanted me to do everything for humanity. And I had different groups came in to talk to me about that, because they said, you cannot compare of how much you can help with people and what you can do. And that's for everybody. It was not only for me, of what you can do for humanity by just giving, because just the giving, a low frequency, cannot compare with the one with expectations. Because even if you say by donation, you still have expectations when you are in a situation that, for example, you need to buy shoes for your children. You're still going to expect this person. Right there, the expectation is completely different frequency of the one that you're going to give from your heart without any expectation, just to make the person happy. Has completely different frequency, completely different reality. And they wanted me, and they taught me to learn that to the last particle. Everything that I was taught was to the last particle, because they told me you cannot download DVD 99%. You can do it 100%. And that goes for the structure of your consciousness, the structure of your body. So if you want really changes, and if you want something, you have to be very committed and very strict with what you're doing in order to achieve certain levels. And they said, if you could not have accomplished that, wasn't going to be given to you. Yeah. And this is the reason why I have situation, for example, that I will be able to stay home. But, you know, we are living to day, because whatever was happening was completely through synchronicity. And they taught me, I had lessons, because every time I had some kind of a teachings, I will be in a situation that I was doing something for somebody. They were testing me, and I knew that they were testing me after the fact, like how I would do with somebody that was self-centered, because I end up in a couple of situations like this from people that even one person was, you know, very well-known a person, and I end up in a situation that I should have been, but that was a testing, guess what, not for me, for the person itself. And I was in a situation, but they would tell me that they were testing me for this or testing me for that after the fact, because they wanted to see to each level what would I do, because they told me that information that they were giving me had to be given to a person that it was no self, it has to be just for humanity.
Mm-hmm. So someone pure in heart.
Yeah, well, I don't know how pure my heart is. I'm doing my best. I have my moments, you know. But my point is that I really, really know that it has to be, and I learn to control my reality. I'm going through the process. If I notice that I'm, for example, upset about something, or I see even a little bit of selfishness with me, which I had a big lesson one time with that, I get a lesson, and I get I understand, you know, what is happening. Because even if they told me even the smallest particle of a lie, it's a completely different structure. Completely different structure. So, and they also talk a lot about the money, the fact that it doesn't matter if you have a $1 in an account or $1 million, is the way you perceive that, and that frequency is what is holding you. So if you know that you have everything you need, no matter what, manifestation is going to happen into your structure. And if I may give an example, you know, what happens, people relate to that. Well, I was told not to work. I was told to stay home, to learn the metaphysics, and to download all the materials to write down. So I just put it out there for scientists. So I was staying at home and was learning the structure and the manifestation at that time. And my son had a birthday. And at that day, he said to me, I really would like to have certain food in the house. I want a cake, but everything he wanted, I didn't have in the house. And we live literally paycheck by paycheck because I'm staying home. And I go, oh my God, I know that, you know, my husband paid all the bills and I have food in the house. We never end up hungry or homeless, but we have everything we need at the moment. But I don't have this type of money. But at the moment I said that, I said, wait a minute, let me just pull back. And I said, we have everything we need. And I told everybody, get dressed, let's have fun. Whatever will come, will come. I know we'll think of something. So I got everybody dressed up really nice. And I said, let's go to the mall. And we all went to the mall. I literally had like $7 in my pocket. Nobody has money, but we're going to the mall, right? So we went into the mall and started walking around the mall. And I knew that I have everything. I wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about anything. So twice this lady started coming literally into my face. And I go, I need to go to the ladies' room. You know, I don't have time for this right now. So coming back, again, the same woman is coming towards us. And I was ready to pass by. And again, I hear survey. And I go, what? And I started paying attention. And she said, listen, if you do a survey right here in this room in the mall with computers for 15 minutes, if you guys sign in, everybody is going to get from $10 to $15 cash right now. And I go, what? I made the whole family, instead my little son, we did a survey, and right then and there, I collected like almost $47. And guess what? We eat only organic food because of everything I've learned, you know, because there's no pesticides. And I was able to buy everything my son wanted, including organic cake for him, just to make his birthday. So this is not the only manifestation. There were so many things like this happen. I was walking in a mall one day because my son needed something. And while I'm walking in a mall, I know that I have only $20 to buy him jeans. Somebody ended up emailing me at the same time, donating $30 for my book without me asking for anything. And not only this, I opening my wallet and I discover in different compartment, $30 again. So I literally in 2 seconds, I got her $60 plus $20. And it was just amazing. But what's happening here metaphysically? Because I put myself in accepting the situation by knowing that I have everything in this matrix of reality, because you co-create your reality. It set me worrying, because if I was worried that I don't have money, at the moment I say I don't have, I'm giving off a frequency into the matrix of the quantum field that is going to give me back that I don't have money. But if I accept the situation that this is what I see right now, but it's okay, and I know that everything I need is coming from the matrix, and it's going to reflect my feelings and my thoughts. By me going and taking action and going to the store and doing that, I took action that I know that I have everything I need. That's how, because I end up putting a frequency to match that reality, and I shifted into a parallel reality that already exists in the matrix, that I manifested basically whatever I needed to have. That's how the manifestation happens. By you shifting yourself to a parallel earth that already exists for whatever you need, by matching basically your feelings is your tuning fork, by picking the reality. Because what they told me, whatever you think of, if, for example, this is from the hybrids, and then Council of Nine ended up teaching me that. Whatever you think of right now, any image you put in your head, it's already a reality somewhere in the parallel structure. You can think of something, that's important. You can think of something if it doesn't exist already. So not only you co-creating that image at the same time, but you can't even think of this image if that image was not somewhere in a parallel structure of the quantum field, because everything is at the moment.
Everything's happening now.
Everything happening now.
Yeah.
So basically you're picking up an image by thinking that you're imagining something, but that image already exists. So they said, you need to understand that. Once you understand that, you have to understand that anything you think of is a reality already. In order to come to your structure is by taking action, 100% believing it without expectations. Because when you put expectations, you're lowering the frequency and you're stopping the process of the quantum field to manifest through synchronicity everything you need in your structure.
Which speaks a lot about trust, because it's more about just simply just putting yourself in absolute trust that this is whatever it is that you're thinking of.
Yes, and it has to be 100% trust.
Yeah, it's going to manifest. So
that's what they were talking to the last particle. If you put one doubt of the important things to understand here is, if you must know 100%, play it like a hide and seek. You know, if you're in a room somewhere, and for example, you know in your room you have a bed, you know that the room is in a bed, but for example, you're not going to know which location. Don't ever have expectations how something is going to come to you. Just know that it's coming to you, but which way, you don't know. Think of it as a big computer that you just put in the code, and the code is your feelings. And when you go on the internet, you don't know from the search engine where the information is coming from. That's how you think of the quantum field.
yeah.
It's like a computer, you put in the code into it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. When I was doing my work, which was about the same time that you were doing yours, and I find that fascinating because there's so many people that have reported the same thing, that their information and their creativity and their channeling and all of that started right around, the 2011 mark and so forth. But one of the statements that came to me was, love is the essence by which all things are suspended by grace. So how that, how I interpret that is very close to what you're saying in terms of trust, because I see love as being the highest vibration in the universe. And when you put your trust out there that something is going to happen, you're actually dangling, which is the suspension part. You're dangling by your trust. You're just putting everything on the verge of, it doesn't matter, you're just hanging there.
If you go through the quantum metaphysical, the trust and the law frequency together is the 0 point. So if you stay there from that moment, you can create. That's how the creation starts. You pick at that moment when you have absolute acceptance of what is happening in front of you, what the situation is, because you know that the only way you can change that is by you tuning in your frequency of the way you want the outcome to be. By not responding whatever you see in front of you. The response is basically you tuning into that reality again, especially if it's a negative. So you always have to put it through a positive, through the heart chakra, through the love, because it's the purest frequency. And this is the frequency basically is the higher self. So if we stay in the higher self, if we stay in the purity with that, without judgment, because judgment is lowering the frequency, but to understand that everybody is in a different level of understanding. And once this person is in a different level of understanding, for example, you in the first grade and the person is in kindergarten, you can't tell that person what to do. Or if you're first grade, or you're 12th grade, you can't teach first grade quantum physics. They have to go through all the classes in order for them to learn that structure. So who are we to judge a situation? Because that particular person did that by agreement. Nothing in a structure is happening without agreement. Nothing.
Right.
That is the reason why the extraterrestrials are talking about the different frequencies, because they are living in a higher frequency than ours. And when we raise that frequency with that consciousness, you know, then you start telepathically to connect. But what's happening, the planet is going into fifth dimensional structure. So we are taking our physical bodies. So what you need to do is completely detox and make the structure of our body and our consciousness like a unity to lift this up in order for you, for them and you to have a momentum, which is in reality, you're never going into their reality. You're actually creating reality between you and them, third reality. That's why they say 1 + 1 is 3, because it's Trinity. Their reality and our reality co-create the third reality, and the meeting is there. But that is happening when you're ready, when your structure is ready by agreement. Because at the moment we start thinking or bilocating, you don't even know. Sometimes they come, they see you, which a lot of times it's happened, and I don't even have a memory. But guess what? What they end up teaching me lately was like, I was told literally to sit down, and I was told, okay, now get in a spaceship. So I was guided to go in a spaceship. So I'm in a spaceship. Okay, what do you see? And I will say, well, I see this type of device. Okay, you see the device. What does it look like? What is that device for? And I will start saying, well, this is device for, and this was all telepathically happening. And they said, you're a little bit off. Tell me again, what is the device for? So I tried again, and they said, okay, you're on the right track. And they start teaching me to be in a spaceship by my thoughts and by my feelings, to the point that one day I was literally cooking in the kitchen, and they told me to stop everything, to go sit down. And they told me, Marina, you need to learn how to operate a spaceship. And I go, what? I mean, this was ludicrous for me at that time, but I understood because of everything they would start teaching me. Everything was teaching me being in a spaceship, and me being at the same time in a planet Earth and in a spaceship at the same time, because your consciousness is to infinity. So I was connecting with my family from the Pleiadian structure. Mm-hmm. And they were telling me that I coexist and I can talk to them and I know what's happening. So they told me to sit down, and I literally, through my thoughts, had to stop the spaceship because I was stopping so quick that it was creating some kind of a friction. So I was guided how I should stop, and it was all by thoughts. My spaceship basically was, I was, navigating the spaceship through my thoughts. It was very interesting, but I understood, you know.
It's very interesting that you should talk about this. I know that you follow a little bit of the work of the Keshe Foundation.
Yes.
Have you followed the more recent work where Mr. Keshe is teaching everyone how to create their spaceship?
I am very familiar with the fact that because from his teachings, I end up learning about the structure with the frequency and the light. Mm-hmm. That's how I was able to connect. And they told me that this was for a reason by me finding out Bashar from the prime meridian of the one particle. And I connected the way the light structure in the quantum field with him. And that's how I was able to prove how your consciousness becomes a matter, that we are God particle, that God you are. Mm. This was very fundamental discovery for me, how to explain to people, because people can understand and connect now, because you can say you consciousness. Well, how are you consciousness? Well, you matter too. Well, how am I matter? How is this one? How am I one? Explain to me. And in order to do that, you have to connect spirituality with metaphysics. It should never be separated, because guess what? They're all one. They're all the same. That is the reason why a lot of people now understand that, because you are able to explain how all the structure is connected with each other. That is all consciousness. You know, that's how everything works. But I'm familiar with him. I know that it's absolutely possible to do the MAGRAPH, the magnetic and gravitational field, because as I have this frequency, what frequency 1, frequency 2, you literally, that is completely doable, completely possible, because you basically put in, if you know the structure, for example, of a book, and you can measure, through machinery, through devices, the vibration, for example, of this book, and what type of structure it is, how many of the atoms or how many of whatever is created that day. And if you measure that, you can put the same frequency structure into the magnetic and gravitational of the MAGRAPH. And once you do that, this can completely manifest out of thin air. It's not out of thin air, it's out of the quantum field. You basically physically are giving the structure, the frequencies into the quantum field, and that's why it's coming in front of you. But eventually we're going to be able to do that telepathically, and we are doing it telepathically the way it happened with the money in the store. That is the ultimate. But until humanity gets to this point of understanding, this point of teachings and level, it will have some understanding to do, baby steps. You can't just jump from here to here, because you may not be ready to have this quantum leap.
And I really think that that's what the MAGRAPH is more than anything. It's almost the training wheels for getting there. The MAGRAPH structure has changed. Well, not that it has changed. I mean, you still have people that are building the MAGRAPH, but it has gone a step further in the teachings, where he has talked about putting it in what's called a star formation, which is, from my understanding of what I'm hearing you talk about, the harmonic reactor, and this structure that he's describing is very similar, because it's almost like a spaceship slash time traveling type of device.
What was important for that's what it is. I don't know to what extent, because I know that it has to be entire scientific team to work in that harmonic reactor, and everybody can download this from my website, www.marinajacobi.com, and it's all for free if they want to look at it. But the structure of that thing is that measuring the person's structure. So I can totally understand how this is possible, but the whole thing, it has to be done from scientific team that is absolutely for humanity, or they're not going to be able to decode the material, because the entire material is a life structure. It's written in a certain language that it's actually, if anybody reads it, we raise the frequency because of the structure. But also the scientist that is basically has an ego structure for self-benefit. And they specifically told me to address the scientific community for the fact that it has to be unity work. Not be this scientist is better than the other one, or for example, if somebody discovers something, now is not important because I know better than him and I made a better discovery, which I, unfortunately to say, I see that it's happening a lot in the scientific community.
So it has to be a group of people.
It has to be a group, and it has to be everybody. If you have a knowledge for certain mathematical equations, you get this. I'm going to give you the knowledge of MAGRAPH. I'm going to put something else I discover. Not only you separate yourself from the structure, and I'm the ultimate knowledge, because what they were telling me, that the knowledge is spread out pieces by pieces, everybody. Not one scientist, I can guarantee you, knows the entire stuff. It's all given pieces by pieces to everybody until these people don't, I really hope that everybody unites and start working together, except putting who knows better than the other person, everything, because even if like 5 years ago, some discovery that could be implemented. And very important thing was that the mathematical equations for the harmonic reactor and the entire material has to be done from the language of the light math, not matter. All the math has to be from light because the structure of the entire universe is from light. So the mathematical equations has to be the math of light.
So it needs to be someone who's already at a fifth dimensional.
There are, fifth dimensional consciousness of a human being, which the very interesting thing is that I was told for certain scientists, and it was amazing, that not that they're bad people, but if, for example, you're a scientist that you discover something and you think that only your knowledge is the only knowledge that could be implemented, and you're not taking under consideration somebody else's, fifth dimensional structure cannot work with the ego like this, because you put in your ego to think that you're the only magnificent creature in an entire planet that can discover everything else. You have to, you made incredible discovery, and I applaud you for all that, but the fact is that creation spreads everywhere since you make from this one particle. So all the knowledge is spread out everywhere, and we have to unify all that and start working. And the other thing was very important when lately was happening that they were telling me that is to stop doing these huge webinars and talking to each other and go to seminars and all this stuff. The whole thing was to work with each other and start doing the work, because they see a slight delay into a lot of the scientists that go and do these huge forums and stuff like this, but the actuality, the work needs to start. And I know for a fact that there are still people in the community that are not accepting the fact that it's a life structure, for example, if it's the Harmonic Reactor or something else, because they simply don't understand. Until scientists open up their mind for the unknown and let go of ego and understand that it has to be implemented as a unity, these scientists that are working on that eventually will fall out of the orbit of three-dimensional structure. So it's interesting when I hear sometimes about different people that they are ready for it or somebody is not ready, and sometimes information was not given, because they want to see that you're really working on it, on that.
Yeah, I think it's going to also require that people or scientists recognize that science in and of itself has become almost a cult, almost a religious belief in and of itself, that it has to function in a certain way, and that you need to see specific results. There's so much.
Yes, like a certain belief system.
Exactly.
Well, I would say I wouldn't be focusing on that. What I would be focusing on is like the people. See, what's happening is when you know the quantum structure, when you start doing manifestation, I've noticed that even it was very interesting that through synchronicity, the right people will come into. The people that I started working, it was, I went to a vegan potluck and I ended up meeting one of the best scientists, and now I'm working with him on certain stuff. Completely understands the structure, completely we talk about the stuff. Then I end up taking somebody just out of my heart, and I end up connecting with another person that is completely understanding the stuff. Lately just happened. A couple of days ago, I was thanking somebody or talking to somebody, and completely different person ended up connecting with me. Not only that he's into scientific stuff, but also he had experience. And I've realized I just let it go because I was so fixated of I have to contact this person or that person. And yes, they may talk about it. Maybe they made a discovery, but are they a fifth dimensional structure as a consciousness? Because you can be a brilliant scientist, but you may not be ready consciously to understand that it has to be unity and not to have the ego structure. What I see the most is ego structure.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of vegan, tell us a little bit about your current state of tuning, because I know that you've been given a very strict diet. You want to tell us?
Yes. Speaking of that one,
give us an update.
Okay, it took a time when it started from the hybrids, and they end up talking to me about detox. At the same time, I had a thyroid issue prior to that time. And literally, I didn't take any medications. They literally taught me through the process of detoxing my body. By every 2 weeks, I was stopping eating certain foods. The first 2 weeks could be, for example, the bread. The second 2 weeks could be the rice. The third week could be, I started with the meat and was the, for example, the beef, the chicken. Every 2 weeks I was getting off something. In the meantime, they told me to start juicing, and I started juicing like 6 cups only of green juice and 4 cups of fruit juice. And I was separating them because when you mix fruits and vegetables, they ferment. And once they ferment, you lose the nutrients. And the reason why you don't want shakes, but you do juicing, is because the juice is potent and it squeezes all the juices from the fruit. And it's 100 times more potent than, for example, shake that you have to put water. And when you get rid of the fiber, there is so much nutrients that everything is going directly to your blood. So you're preserving more nutrients, because in order for you to process the fiber, you have to take energy out of the structure in order to process it to go into the blood. But if you juice it, not only that it's so potent, but goes directly into your blood. So that process of mashing all the food and doing everything to get energy out of your structure is not there any longer. So not only that you're withholding more energy field, but you're also raising the frequency of your body, because the raw juicing is a higher on frequency. Once you cook the food, it's already dead.
Yeah, it has
frequency is different.
Yeah.
So in order to raise your frequency, you have to go on juicing. You have to detox your body from all the food and GMO and everything else that we've been given through the years. You know, and you have to start eating organic food because it's away from the pesticides. Mm-hmm. You know, so once you do that, your structure of your energetic field raises. And for me, this was necessary in order for me to interact with them, because I was getting more and more, and higher. Council of 9 is above extraterrestrial structure. This is a very high frequencies. So you have to open up these channels in order to be able to do this stuff. And I was taught step by step, and you have to follow. You have to be committed to it. Right now, I'm asked to only juice. So now I'm only juicing, and they see my body. What happened one time was, when I was doing in the beginning all this, they literally told me I end up staying only on salad, potatoes, baked potatoes, and I was doing the juicing. And I got a little bit nauseous at that time. So they told me, go back for 2 weeks and eat fish twice a week. After I finished that, I moved only on the salad. And the last thing I was eating was only the salad. And then my energy was regulated, because they were seeing my entire structure as a field, and they would tell me to go back and to do something. So now I'm only in juicing, and the formula was 20 days to juice only, 3 days, and the juicing is 6 cups again of green juice. I have a videos on it. If you go to YouTube or you go to my website, all the videos are there. Put Marina Jacobi on YouTube, and all the videos for juicing is there on my website.
They're very nice too. I've seen them.
Well, thank you. Yeah. But this is the reason why I put it, because everybody was asking me how I did it, and I gave you exactly the instructions. I teach you what's happening in the body, exactly how they taught me. Mm-hmm. This is how they taught me, is exactly.
So you only drink 6 cups of juice a day? Is that it?
6 cups of green juice and 6 cups and 4 cups of fruit juice. But if I'm hungry, if I get hungry, I blend, for example, banana with a distilled water. I don't drink regular water, drink only distilled water. I was told to drink only distilled water because it had a negative charge, and the negative charge in the distilled water was pulling up any negative particles that was in your body.
Mm-hmm. So that's why there are no minerals. There are no minerals in distilled water. Okay, so you're getting all your.
That is the reason why this is happening. So there's always a reason. So I've learned to trust them through the process. Mm-hmm. So now was the next level, because they were asking me from 6 months to do that, and I had to go to Bulgaria, came back, and it was impossible for me to maintain that because they didn't have enough vegetables there for me. Mm-hmm. And basically the formula is like 20 days of juice, the same formula, 6 and 4, and 3 days to eat raw food and juicing at the same time. Then I do 30 days of juicing, then 3 days again, and basically the formula was like 20, 30, 40, and in between each 10 days of increase, I had 3 days of basically eating raw food and juicing at the same time, the same 6 cups and 4 cups. But what happened is the other day, I did 15 days, then New Year's came in. I didn't do very well there. And then I started again. The 10-day, yesterday, the day before, it was a huge integration in my structure. And they told me, I felt, I get up in the morning and I got very, dizzy in my head. And I said, oh my God, maybe it's the juicing, but I never had this happening. Then they start talking. They said, no, it's not that. We told you it's going to be huge energetic field coming into you. We're raising your frequency. We're doing something. So lay down. So I went to lay down. My husband at the same, I made my husband give me a banana shake with water because it's like a juice. And I drank that and I ended up sleeping. After I get up, everything was normal. But that day, like 2 days ago, they asked me to maybe have a salad, and I had a organic Yankee bean. And that was my salad, with olive oil and apple cider vinegar, organic apple cider vinegar. And that's what I was eating for the day. And I'm back to normal, so I'm not back to juicing. And I asked what happened. And what happened is it was a lot of energetic fuel that came in, and my body needed to balance. And I end up dropping energy very rapidly. And they needed to sustain that. So for that day, I had to implement that. But the good thing is that right now, I cannot teach people how to do that. I can tell you how to detox. But to get to the level to stay only in juicing for months, and for me, that has to be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I must say it's quite a challenge, because I have to be very strict. But again, as they told me, if I wasn't going to be able to do it, that task will not be given to me. So I can only say that right now I'm going through the process, and I know I'm going to achieve it. It's just challenging. I'm not going to lie, it's challenging.
Has the Council of Nine told you where they're from?
They said that they're basically it's consciousness from a different galactic families, which they are basically were picked, and that's how they created the Council of Nine. It's not particular planet, mm-hmm. only from a particular planet. They said it's from a different planets that they end up created, and it will almost look like they were chosen to be in the Council of Nine. Mm-hmm. But I never really got into what type of planet, from where, and how. For some reason, I really never asked. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that the Council of Nine is the same thing as the Council of Saturn. Mm-hmm. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, they said there is a connection. Mm-hmm. That's what I just heard.
Yeah. So is there anything, are you open on a channel level to
Yeah, I have my thoughts are automatic, the way you just said something and I hear immediately validation, mm-hmm. For what you say. I don't have to go to trance. There are certain trance, but nobody can see it, I guess, mm-hmm. or I don't feel it because it's so natural. Mm-hmm. Any question or anything, I get immediately thoughts, or if I want to write it, I can write it. It's just automatic. I can walk somewhere and I can hear them talking about mm-hmm. something. That's how it is.
Are any of them wanting to communicate anything to humanity at this point, since we have this open vehicle for communication for others?
I can pull myself back and I can say, but I can talk the way they were talking, and I'll focus in one location. I may close my eyes if it gets to, so I don't get distracted.
Yeah.
At this particular point. What we would like to say that the structure at this point is a lot of frequency that they're combining in a very rapid speed. And this rapid speed is going to change your molecular structure into a very dormant level of creation. From the central sun, there's a lot of frequency that are coming at the moment, and you are going to do, as a collective in the planet Earth, a quantum leap. And when we say quantum leap, we can say a Harper hyperdrive, which is a very, very advanced molecular structure. This molecular structure is combined from 2 by 2 molecular plasmas that are creating the structure of every single universe in the human being structure. This structure is through portals, and every portal is created by these pixels. These pixels can become like a torus in your structure that is combining everything in one structure of your human consciousness individually and in a collective consciousness. So now humanity needs to relax in a 0 point by acceptance of all these energies that are coming in this particular time of the quantum leap. And you need to understand that is collaboration of the entire federations, the entire consciousness for the humanity in order to go into the fifth dimensional structure gradually, so you can have pleasant experience for the realities. In the particular future, so-called, you say, there are coming changes, but the changes will be accordingly to every single particular structure of your own particular consciousness. However, collectively, you have a realities to experience, could be distractions or could be a positive, depending of your own particular structure of consciousness. You're going to perceive or receive different guidance or different situations that you're going to move through these changes very smoothly or with a little bit turbulence, depending of your own structure that you are vibrating on. So what we may suggest in this particular time is to completely be focused on the positive structures, positive thinking, give everything for humanity, because that is what is going to create your outcome through the ascension process of this reality.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, I'm getting some myself. We wish to speak with you as well.
Sure. I would be excited to hear that.
Oh my goodness. I haven't channeled publicly, so I wouldn't know where to even begin.
Yeah, I know. They told me if I have to channel, particularly quantum structure, to close my eyes.
Yeah.
Because I can pull myself back, listen to and say, but if it's quantum, to stay with closed eyes so I don't distract myself with what I see.
Yeah. Yeah,
I do completely aware.
Well, and that's exactly how I am. I mean, I am aware, but I still close my eyes and channel. But anyway, this is about you, not about me today. So.
Thank you.
Marina, it's been wonderful chatting with you. So give us again for the record your website address and where people can find your YouTube books and whatnot.
Well, my website is www.marinajacobi.com, and you can always put my name on YouTube, and all the information is there. You can look for me on Facebook. I particularly love to work with everybody. My sessions are for free, just out of my heart. And any scientist can always contact me. I love working with scientists. It's my basically the biggest passion, because I love to get into all these structures, you know, and learn something else, because it's very profound experience when you get information right at the moment. Because I had situations that I would tell something to a scientist that I have no idea what they were talking about, and then the scientist will explain to me what they were talking about. So it was like a 3-way learning experience for me, because my knowledge for if I work directly with a scientist, if they ask me at that moment, something comes directly. And they said usually 5-dimensional structure, the information will come directly, and that is not only for me, it's for absolutely everybody. You know, you basically connecting with that structure. And they also said that if I didn't know this stuff, I wouldn't be able to extract it in the first place.
Right.
So I must, in some location, somehow working with it or know it, for example.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because I'm in the process of building my own cache 5-star formation.
Oh, that is exciting.
So I can relate to what you're saying. And so at some level, I know that I know it. And it's just a matter of articulating it in such a way that other people can understand it.
Okay, I'm getting a message for something that I want to say specifically for that. Okay, when you Okay, I understand. I get like a picture right now, and then it's almost like a download. I know how to say it. When you are trying to, for example, manifest something or create something out of the structure of the quantum field, you have to secure the location by measuring the frequency of the location that you are in, and almost make it like a bubble. Because if you don't secure the location, you're going to open a hole in the quantum structure.
That makes sense.
That is leaking frequency through it,
yeah.
Energy through it. So whatever you do, in order for you to basically, in order to pour, for example, juice in this bottle, you can't just put a juice without a bottle. It's going to go everywhere. You need to construct first the glass,
a vessel
in order to pour into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they were saying. When you build structures like this, make sure that you create something to recognize the field around it. There's ways to basically know what the like an energetic field that is protecting this, in order to manifest whatever structure you want to manifest.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And part of what's happening also that we've seen is some of the people that are creating these vessels or these structures, the structure or the energy is creating its own shield of protection as well. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, but they're saying even if it's creates its own shield, it has to be measured in order to be 100%.
So I don't know how we would measure plasma. So that would be
I don't know. I see. This is where scientists are coming in. I can just picture it and I can just say it, but how exactly?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting something now. I know how it's measured because it's measured by the distance. It's measured by the separation between.
Or something to do with the pulsation.
Yeah.
But that was how. That was for, I think, maybe something else. Yeah, I don't know. I think they have to measure the structures,
measure the field
around it.
The field,
particular location. So it was very important, because now I remember from the harmonic reactor, the way they have to measure for each particular person the frequency. You measure the structure, the molecular structure, and every molecular structure has a geometry. Your molecular structure has a geometry. So once they measure that geometry of your molecular structure, and for example, Denise, you want to get into the teleportation machine, the machine inside has these magnets that, and in the structure of these magnets has to be designed as your structure of your molecular structure. That's what they were saying. Because it was very important to be secure, so your body doesn't get out of orbit.
Yes.
And your body molecular structure has to be measured in order to protect you in a bubble. And this is the same for any type of technology, because you basically pour in the juice without any surroundings to keep it in one place. It has to have a protective shield. The way, for example, if you're traveling through space, you need a shield around your spaceship so nothing bubbles. In the Star Wars, remember, they were shooting everything, and all of a sudden the shield was protecting it, the same thing. But in order for them to have this shield had to be around the structure of the spaceship. In order to have the shield, you gotta measure that structure. It has to know how far or what distance it must be in order to be the shield. So that is, I guess, the same for anything that you build.
Yeah, it's making sense, and I will.
You're working with creation. You're working with the structure of the quantum field that we made of, and you don't want any type of leakage into the structure.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. You don't want to create a portal also for some type of energy to come in.
You may create something.
Which is what I think what the Hadron Collider has been attempting to do, what CERN has been attempting to do, which is portal.
There were, but it was intervention there. And I talked a lot with the intervention, because I was like upset when in the beginning of my learning experience. I've learned a lot about this stuff. I was constantly in the internet, and I was watching Carrie Cassidy. and they taught me to just accept the situation, not to judge what is happening, because once you start judging, you're tuning in. But after a while, when I've learned all the structure, they told me, now let it be. You've learned what is happening. Now completely shift yourself into the teachings, into constantly positive giving, so that what you're reading there that they're doing negative doesn't become reality of yours.
Right.
So that, and I applaud Carrie Cassidy for that, because there's still people that are waking up. So they need to know what is happening. But once you know the knowledge, if you keep going into any structure that, for example, somebody end up bombing something, or if you constantly watch it, because you're giving all this type of frequency, you're giving them emotions, eventually you're bringing this into your doorsteps.
Yeah, you actually have to let go. In other words,
you have to let go, and you have to understand that it's a transition, and everybody is learning lesson. Even the people that are, for example, dying or something is happening, you have to think of it from a higher perspective, higher consciousness, because these people would not be there without agreement.
Yeah.
In a structure, everything is so. Imagine that these people said, we're going to have this profound experience in the name of humanity, so humanity will wake up and see what is done to us so they can wake up.
Yeah.
You never know who is doing what, because if you were born, for example, in a family that everybody was talking against some nation, and they were teaching you teachings that are completely horrifying, if you hear something, for them is a belief system. How can you blame this type of consciousness that they believe in that when it's being implemented to them? So you can't put a judgment. You have to let them be, and then in their own structure, they're going to learn their own lesson, because creation is going to show that is out of balance of the entire structure of love structure, because creation is love.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought this up, because a lot of people, you know, continue to be really upset about things happening in Syria and whatnot. But I've come to understand that that's just part of the learning process of humanity.
Part of the learning process is part of the ascension, because these people had an agreement to be there, had an agreement just to happen, because they're all individual, they have their own lessons. Because is one thing people don't realize, that is through incarnation, which is called everything is now, but they had incarnation. You don't know that maybe your previous life you end up doing something similar to somebody else. And in order for you to learn that and clear this out of your structure, you have to have an experience again, in order for you to learn and to balance the energies. So maybe you went into a situation like this by agreement to be there, but now from your experience, something else is learning. You know, so everything has place for these people. So that's why I don't say, I can't believe this nation is doing that, or these people are doing that. I go, okay, I understand it's horrific, but I gotta look at it and observe it. That is a part of ascension, is a part of process. I feel compelled of what's happening. I may send money, or I may say, I'm sorry, I can send a prayer, but I'm surely not going to get upset so much, because the upsetting is the one that is tuning me into that structure, and I do not want this to become part of my reality.
Yeah.
So you have to accept the creation, because if it's in a creation, has to be there. It's part of it. You can reject creation, because you're rejecting the quantum field, and it's becoming as unbalanced, and voila, you in the reality.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative that you brought it up, because like I said, it was it's the same thing that I'm getting, the same message that I'm getting. And so it's giving a confirmation that we're on the same path and the same thought. And,
absolutely, yes.
And it's what I call catalyst. A lot of people don't understand the function of catalyst, but the function of catalyst is to give a positive polarity individual an opportunity to really move forward in their polarization, to swing the pendulum over to making a choice to being positive polarity. So,
absolutely, yeah. That's how it works.
Well, I really enjoyed this. I hope that we could do it again in the future, where you can give us some other updates down the road of all of it.
Next time we can talk more about maybe them and spaceships and, you know, whatever they do.
Yeah.
You know, things about that. Or now I'm getting for nanotechnology, and that is amazing. I mean, I was just walking yesterday, and they told me that I have to write. I was literally, again, it's always happening in the kitchen. I don't know why, but they were talking about like different structures and finite structure. And I go, and because, I'm from Bulgaria, and say, I know finite, but I didn't know what was that. And now, and I found out that finite is the opposite of infinity. And because I'm writing about nanotechnology, and nano is basically the smallest particle can possibly be, I understand that this is now for the smallest, energetic field, So that will be interesting what's coming up of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about it. So maybe we'll put a part 2 to this conversation.
Yeah, part 2, if you want, we can get in more into the technology individual. I can explain a little bit more.
We can do that. And since I'm in a few discussion groups, what I can do is put out the word that we're doing this so that I can request questions, so that if people have questions, they can send them to me. And then that way I'll present them to you, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I hope that if they're gonna do that, it's good if they end up reading the book, because to be honest, it's kind of complex when you really look at it. But I was told it is a life structure, so even if they read it, it's even more stuff in there. If I know that there's already quantum computers somewhere. And if they plug in all that information into the quantum computer, it becoming life consciousness, but this life consciousness would not work with a structure that is negative. That's what is the beauty of it. That's why nobody can steal this material. Because if you are vibrating on not fifth dimensional consciousness, it won't make sense to you. You won't be able to decode it. And even if you try, for example, you're starting something to do, the system itself will shut down, because what's happening, since it's a life consciousness, it recognizes your structure and will not continue. I was told that. They would tell me, you better make sure you say that.
That's great.
That's the beauty.
Yeah, that is the beauty. I was told the same thing with the material that I'm channeling, that whoever utilizes it needs to be very aware of what they're doing, because it will bounce back. It will bounce back on the person that it's putting.
That's right. It was so important that in the material it says that every single time the scientific team goes and tries to work on that, even if you go 5 times a day, you have to go and meditate to put yourself in a state of happiness and love connection, because the structure is recognizing it. So I go, oh my God, I have to set up a sitting room for everybody to meditate and something in order to get in.
And to teach them even to meditate, because most scientists don't believe in meditation.
But they told me to not to worry, that the right people, everything will come through synchronicity. And I had sometimes expectations for certain people that I must talk or must do, but guess what? New people came in, and I understood that they were the right people, because they talk about the stuff, they understand it. Because sometimes of the biggest scientists, they're so mainstream, that they don't want to get off of the structure of what you're talking about. And especially it's coming from a channel, but they don't understand that what I'm extracting is actually, I know it already. So they told me that the information will be given right then and there when the team is working on the spot. Because I heard this already happened. Already happened. Something was given like a structure, and they were asking me more questions. And they said, "We're not going to give you more information. You got the structure already. See what you can do with it. But please." So I had to beg. And when they, this was the only time that they did anything like that, they end up giving a little bit more of the structure. And then hear the scientists, "Oh my God, I can't believe why they don't give the whole thing." I said, they're not going to give any more after this. I said, that's it. It's because we got to work on it.
They're spoon feeding. Spoon
feeding. And I'm literally blocked. It's like a blockage. Even if I beg, even if I want, nothing is given until everybody start working.
I understand. I had the same thing. I channeled straight for about 2 days, several documents, and then boops, it stopped.
Yeah, it's like a blank. I had somebody that was asking me that something with the government and selling souls or things like this, and I'm going, oh my God. And the whole thing was, take it easy, do not worry, and it was blank. And I said, I don't get any information for that, I'm sorry. And that's for my own protection. And whoever was doing whatever they were doing is their level of process of understanding. I don't want to get into, judge anybody, whatever they were doing. Yeah. I'm moving on. I know what I'm doing. I'm giving off everything for humanity, and that's all I'm doing. And the biggest manifestations I want to point out for everybody that is listening, the biggest manifestations and everything that really happened through synchronicity happened when they told me to stay moment to moment. Literally every single day I sat home, I get up, I sit down, and I'm thinking, okay, what is in the Facebook? If anybody asks me a question, I immediately start helping. I wasn't thinking, what can I do so I can make a profit of that person by channeling for them? If they ask me, I would help. If they want a session, I go immediately. Sometimes literally half an hour later, I was sessioning to somebody without any expectations, and was help and help and help and help and help. And through my help, exactly the right people end up calling me out of the blue. I try to say thank you to somebody for something, whatever that is. I have scientists calling me for something else, and that's how I build the certain connections. So if everybody stay moment to moment and focus on what it is, all of a sudden you're going to shrink time, because there's no time. Because once you get into your higher frequency, you shrink in time, and by the time you turn around, the whole day is gone.
Yeah.
But but what you remember, you've been so productive by only helping. And I was so happy, because by the time I turned on, the whole day finished, I said, oh my God, I was so productive. I have 4 people today. I did 2 sessions without expectations, just to help humanity. And I got this and I got that, and I cooked for the home, and and I'm happy. When you stay in your highest excitement, that's how everything starts working for you. So if everybody can do that, this is it.
And it's like a stream. It happens to me. It's almost like a stream, a river, that one thing leads to the other. So if you just stay in the stream,
that's right. Without thinking what's going to be the next, and things start happening. For this interview today, I had it in my phone, not to forget, for the interview. And all of a sudden I'm driving my son. My son is saying something, and I said, oh my God, my interview. And I said, how come my phone didn't show anything to me? What do you think? I look at it, and it's PM to give me, I put it in not AM to give me the warning. It gave me for PM. But look what happened. Came into my structure to remind me. Just thought came in. So, and I've learned that whatever you need to know, when. So now with that, I got to try to, trust.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. Yep. So thanks for that. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. We can talk for hours.
It's been really, we really could. So, but then it would make for a very long interview for people to watch on YouTube. So
yeah, that's right. So you can switch it to whatever.
Marina, it's been wonderful. My hug and kiss to you, and
to you too.
And we'll be chatting again.
You too.
Okay.
Bye. Have a great day.